Okay, we're going to cover the basics of the Slate Material Editor. So when you click up here on Material Editor, your Material Editor will come out. Normally it will be in this compact mode. You click on Modes up here, and you can change to Slate Material Editor. So here we have various materials. Just going to make this a bit bigger. Okay. So in this case I've got this material, which is assigned here to this box. And I have this grey material assigned to this ball. So let's delete this and make a new view. So when you open the Slate Material Editor, you'll normally have a blank view here. Not this, it'll be called View 1, just like that, and it will be here. There'll be nothing in it. You can zoom out, zoom in, there's nothing there. Now you can take your materials here, so I've got V-Ray as the renderer. You click and drag, and it will create the material in the viewport. You can zoom in, the same as you zoom in the max in the viewport, you go in and out. So it's the same idea of moving around. Zoom in on the wheel of the middle mouse. Let's say you're opening someone else's scene, and for whatever reason they've deleted this view. You've got a blank thing here. You won't be able to create a material. You won't be able to do anything. This will seemingly be completely unusable to you. Nothing comes over. Even standard materials, nothing. You can't use the material editor. You have to click up here and this little rectangle here, create new view. You can type in any name. So let's say you want to have building materials. It's for your building materials. You click OK. You now have a view called that. And you can create multiple views. So maybe you have one for your building materials. Maybe you have one for your furniture. So furniture. And you put all your materials for your furniture in here and all your materials for your building in here. It's up to you. And if you right click up here, you can delete the views. You get this little dialog, click OK, and that's gone. By default, this will be called View 1. If you want to change the name of it, you right click, rename View. And by default, it's View 1, like that. So, you click on your materials, drag, drop, you have the materials over here. And you can do this with any material. Now let's say you've been in your compact mode here and you've created a bunch of materials and you want to edit these now in the Slate Material Editor. So, Modes, Slate Material Editor. It's not obvious at first where they are, but if you click here on this, drag this slider right down, you will find your sample slots from your compact material editor here. So if you click here and drag over, you've got all of them there. Then if you want to make them over here, you can just double click, they will appear. Or you drag and drop. You want an instance or a copy, you can click and you're going to get that. Once you have material here, if you want to select it, you can't, how do you change this? How do you edit this? If you double click on this material anywhere, it will appear over here. You can double click on the top, it will appear. Okay, even if you unselect it afterwards, it's still going to be here until you select something else. Okay, so now you've got all of these sample slots and everything else, which if you remember, if you click Modes, go to your Compact Material Editor, it's the same as all these basic parameters that you see right here. It's exactly the same box. Modes, Slate, but it's over here on the right. Now, this might disappear for whatever reason. Maybe you click on the X and it's gone. So you have these two little buttons over here. That's the parameter editor that brings it back. You then need to select it again. And you have this other one here, Material Map Browser, which is over here. And again, maybe you've clicked on that. Maybe it's just disappeared, error, whatever. You click on that again and it will come back. Okay. So you have this slider. Click and drag the slider. You go through everything. You've got your maps, your standard maps, your V-Ray maps. Your materials are above them up here. Now, I like to keep these closed and then open them when I'm using them and close them afterwards, just so I can see and easily access what I need. Some people like to keep them open, and by default they are open, but you end up with a lot of choice here. So yeah, I'll click, open it up, drag what I want, and then I'll generally leave it open. Normally I'll have V-Ray open here, and then maps I'll be using a mix of V-Ray and standard. But that's how that works. So now you want to select a material. You've got this material assigned here. You don't have it in your viewport. You don't have it in your sample slots. If you click this button here, pick material from object, you can then pick it and it appears right here. Next over here, put material to scene. Now most of the time this will be grayed out and you won't be able to use it. This applies when you have two materials with the same name. So I'm going to click here and drag this over. And this is called material number 30, and this is material number 35. Now if I give this the same name, just by clicking in the top, changing it, and then I'm clicking outside of the box, right? If I select this, you've got put material to scene. Now I can do this, they've got the same name. So what it's going to do is it will replace this material with this new material. So if I click on that, anything which had this material on now has this material on. Of course you can go back and select this material and it's also selected, and that will replace it as well. So that's put material to scene. It allows you to switch between two materials with the same name. Now a glitch occurs with this sometimes, where you're going to take a material, you're going to type in the name, you're going to press enter, and this won't appear. So you can't swap between materials, you can't do anything, and you're wondering what's going on. They've got the same name, and what's happened is simply a glitch. So what you need to do is just select the name, select the material which has the name, copy that name, Control C, go into your new material, put it there, Control V, press enter. Now this is selected. You don't want it selected, so click anywhere in this viewport outside of the materials. Bang, it's no longer selected, and then this will appear. So now you'll be able to put the material to scene. That's a simple glitch. Another thing which you're going to run across when you're using the material editor is sometimes you're going to have more than just one material selected. So let's say you have like a material in a box for whatever reason, a material in a bitmap for whatever reason. Now nothing, you can't assign a material, you're trying to figure out what's going on. You can't really put that. Okay, in this case it's simple, right? And you can just click. But sometimes you're going to be trying to figure it out, because in your mind this is selected. It's over here in this box, but actually all three of these are selected, and it doesn't know what material you're trying to assign to the selection. You've got this, this. You just need to have the material selected. So if this is the case, even clicking this, you'll be sitting here, you'll be clicking on this material. It's not going to make any difference. You have to deselect. So you deselect by clicking outside of the material, then you click the material again, and now you can assign the material to selection. So that's how that works. You click here, assign material to selection. Now, if you have two materials with the same name and you use this instead of put material to scene, it will say a material with the same name already exists in the scene. Do you want to replace it or rename this material? And you can rename it or you can replace it. So by replacing it, that's the same as clicking put material to scene. We're going to want this one on, so let's put this material to scene. So that's what that is. And that's the assign material selection. This is delete selected. So you're sitting here, you want to delete, it's gone. Now, if you click on this again, it's back. So deleting selected, let's see, if I click on there and I click delete selected, okay, it's gone from the material and it's no longer assigned. So you have to watch what you're doing. If you want it, you can select the whole material like this and delete it. Then it's still in the scene, it's just not in your material editor. Control Z, I undid that. But if you select a bitmap on its own, delete, then that will adjust the material. Okay. Next up is move children. So by default, I'm sitting here and I'm moving this around, and you'll see these children here stay where they are. So for whatever reason, maybe there's other materials here, I want to move this whole thing. So sometimes it's easier, you just click here, move children, and then everything will move together. So that's the use of this button. It just allows the whole scene, the whole material to move together. Okay. This next one here is hide unused node slots. So again, whatever you have selected, you click this, and it makes it much smaller. So you can fit a lot more materials in the same space, and you can see what's going on a lot easier. It also shows you what's connected where. So again, you can click hide unused node slots, and it will come back. But sometimes you'll press Control A. You want to select all your materials, and you want to just hide what's not used. So you just click on that, and it will change everything. Okay. Next up is show shaded material in viewport. So you'll see that by here, this red line and this blue line, that's showing the shaded material in the viewport. So if you turn that off, that no longer has a red and blue line, and this by default now will be whatever color is in this diffuse slot. So in this diffuse, you've got red, and that's why it's appearing red. If I change this color, it will change as well. Okay. Right, now show background in preview, which brings up another point because you can't really see it here. If you double click on the picture itself, it gets a bit bigger, And you can zoom in a bit, but that's about as far as you can zoom in, so that's not really big enough to view it properly. If you right click and you click open preview window, you get another box. You can just click on the edge and drag, and that will give you a larger preview so you can see what's going on, how your material looks. Okay, I want to see this in a viewport, so show shaded material in viewport, and it's there. Okay, show background. Sorry, I was trying to show this. So, okay, so show background. You can see how this reflection's occurring, how glossy the material is, and how it will react to other scene materials. So that's what this show background in preview is. If I turn that off, I lose all of those reflections. I've got to kind of look at how the grey is reflecting here. It's not easy to see. So that's what that's for. Okay, next, when you're rendering, you can have your material paths coming out. So you can basically, if you double click on that picture, by the way, it gets smaller again. So this is your material ID channel, and that will then allow the material channels to render out, so you can do easy post-production in Photoshop or whatever your choice of post-production software is. And you can change the number, but by default this only goes up to 15. So you might want to go higher than that. If it's 15 and you've got 50 materials in the scene, you're going to have overlapping numbers and so on and so forth. So you can override that if you come down here to options. You've got here override material effect. So by default that's off. If you turn that, and that means this number up here is what's working. If you turn that on, you can put anything, just drag and change the effect ID number, and now you can have hundreds of different material IDs. You get many more than just 15 slots, which is what it has in here. Okay. And the next one here, layout all vertical. It's going to lay out all of your materials that are in this viewport vertically. So you click that and they just all come in a lovely line so you can see what's going on. Okay, after that you have layout children. So let's say you're working and somehow your material has ended up something like this, and you're just like, that's a mess. So you just drag this, put it where you want it. You click on layout children and they're going to come out nice and laid out there. Now this is select by material, so I'm going to click here on the pick material and click on here, and I get that one. So now if I click select by material, this comes up. It selects everything which has this material number 31 on. So I select them, click and close the material editor, I can put Alt Q to isolate, and it shows me, oh, it's on these two objects. I don't think, anyway. Sometimes you get errors and glitches, because I do not think it's on this object at all. It's clearly this one that's on that object. So you get these errors occurring at times where it will select them incorrectly. Alright, this will occur most often when you have groups. It will select everything in the group. So the only solution in this case is to ungroup everything. So you just make sure everything's selected, group, and you click ungroup, and you might have to make sure it's all selected still, click and do it again, group, ungroup. Now there's a few other things I do. This has got bitmaps in it, so let's take this bitmap off this material. I'm going to come here, I want to attach a bitmap. So I click here, standard, and I drag and drop the bitmap into the material editor slot. It comes up with this, and you can browse to select the material that you want to see. So, I don't know, let's take a leaf. Put it on as a diffuse, and that's now coming through there. So that's how you get a bitmap, or you get any of the different maps into the scene. You just either drag and drop, or you double click, and they will appear. And then you can take them and you can attach them. Now the other thing you can do is you can drag and drop, and it's going to ask you what you want, so you can click. It's the same as selecting it from here on the left, but you can now have this little dialog. So you can then click standard, bitmap, select whatever you want. Oh, bark, here we go. We use that as a displacement. So that's another way of doing it. You just drag and drop, and you can select, oh yeah, I want V-Ray color. Oops. V-Ray bump, I don't want that. Reflection glossiness, V-Ray color, and you want that in there. So this is ways how you can create your material. Now again, like I said, it's getting messy. You press C, it's going to lay it all out nicely. Uh, Obviously, C is the same here as layout children. That's the shortcut for it. Now there's another thing here which I want to show you. To do this, I've put this tree in the scene, and let's select the leaf material. So this is an old model of a tree. You just select the leaf material, and what you have is this. Now you want to change this material. You want this to be something else. You want it to be a V-Ray two-sided material. So what you're going to do is drag, drop, materials, V-Ray, V-Ray two-sided from material. Now this is not this. It's not assigned to anything. So now you got to select this, and assign the material. Now there's a problem here. And the problem is, if you've got tons of things to select, you don't want to be creating this new one, you don't want to be doing it this way, and you don't want to be doing it, sorry, materials, I need V-Ray here. You don't want to be clicking here, dragging, pulling it over, putting it on there, and assigning it by clicking there and assigning. You don't want to be doing it that way. Because you've got, let's say, 20 different items in the scene, all with this material here assigned. So the easiest way to do that, I'm just going to delete this. The easiest way to do it is if you right click on it, you click change material map type. So now it's going to change this material to another one. You come in here, you go, oh yeah, the material I want is this V-Ray two-sided material, double click, comes up with this dialog, keep old material as submaterial, leave that selected, say OK. And now this material is assigned. The reason you can't see it is because this material, there's too much going on for V-Ray to calculate which one you want to see. So you need to select the leaf material, click here, show shaded material in viewport, and it will ask you where do you want to see it. So I've just created these different V-Ray two-sided materials. Now here it's called leaf material. So we're going to just show on that one, and you can see it. So that's it really. You have to kind of maybe be a bit careful because this has a name, leaf material, and now this new one has the same name. So let's change that because that can cause errors later on. Yeah, so that's that. The two things I use here on right click are really change material map type, as you just saw, an open preview window. So you can click and drag and get a bigger preview. Now if you do right click here and you get all of these other options, you'll see these are the same options that you get here. These are the same options you get from up here. So I don't really go into this. You can, feel free, but we've already covered the use of these different ones by going through this here. I'm just going to go through a couple points up here which to use. Okay, tools. You have Navigator. It brings up this little box here, so you can just drag around, and it will be as big as the whatever materials you have. So you can drag around and see what materials you have. So that can be really useful. You might have a material off in the side somewhere and you don't know it's there, but so this can definitely be useful. Tools, Navigator. Okay, another thing, options, propagate materials to instances. I'm turning this on and off all the time. So what that means is to assign the same material to all of the instances. So let's just give you an example. You have a box. You have it here. We're going to just make a few instances. Instance. Okay, we've got 4 instances here. So I've got one selected. I've got this leaf material that we made, so we're going to assign that. So with options, propagate materials to instances, it will put them on everything. So let's say you got a bunch of chairs, and you've got all leather material on. Assign material to selection, they all get it. Control Z, I'll undo that. Okay, now if I turn that off, it will mean these instances you can put different materials on there. So I can assign this one to that one. I can take this, I can select another material and assign it to that instance, and another material and assign it to that. Oh, cancel this. I can take another instance and assign it to that. I can take another instance and assign it to this one. So basically you just end up with different instances on different materials on the same instances. And the way you do that is through this. So turn that on and off as needed. The reason I like the Slate Material Editor, and I use it much more than the Compact Material Editor now, is simply because I can look at a material and I can know instantly what's going on. I can see what materials are going, what bitmaps are going into where, and how it's all laid out. And that's incredibly useful. Now, if you want to create a bitmap, let's say you go here, standard, you get a bitmap, you pull it over, you drag and drop it, you choose something, and then you can assign it to any slot. You just click in this little, circle, and you can drag and drop, and it goes in. So that's really all there is to it. So let's say you have cellular, you want to put it in the bump slot. You click here, you drag it over, and you can just drag this up to the bump, let go, and it will instantly go in there. So you double click on there, it comes up here, and you can do all of your adjustments same as before. Let's put that back. So that's really all there is to it. It's very simple to use a Slate Material Editor.